Hello, everyone. Welcome to the morning show. We're coming to you this morning on WJOP-LP Newburyport at FM 96.3 on Channel 9 and on Newburyport Community Media's YouTube station at ncmhub.org. I'm your host, Mary Jacobsen, and I'm honored this morning to welcome the co-presidents of the Women's Fund of Essex County, an important and impactful volunteer organization. Trish Moore is here. She volunteered for a number of nonprofits in Essex County before joining the Women's Fund in 2019. She formed her own consulting business in 97, and after serving in executive positions in healthcare, government, nonprofit, and for-profit organizations, she specializes in executive coaching and leadership development. Her passion for supporting women and girls comes in large part from her experiences as a woman executive in the business world. Trish, welcome, and thank you so much for taking time to visit the morning show this morning.
Thank you, Mary. I'm delighted to be here.
I'm delighted to have you. Wendy Roworth is here as well. Wendy has served on the fund's board for 9 years. During that time, she served on the grants allocation committee and has found this to be one of the most rewarding experiences, meeting with nonprofits and their constituents and seeing firsthand the impact of donor gifts on women and girls in our community. Wendy retired in 2013 from a 41-year career in retail management. She tells me there must have been something special about the letter L, as she worked as a divisional vice president for Lord & Taylor and then was a multi-store manager for the Limited and Lucky brand jeans. So I think L must be your lucky letter, Wendy, and everyone should have a lucky letter. Welcome, and thanks so much for taking time to visit the show.
Thank you. Delighted to be here as well.
Well, I am just excited to have you teach us more about the Women's Fund. I hope that you could start us off by telling us when and how the Women's Fund got started, its mission, and what led each of you to become involved with it. Whichever of you would like to start.
I'm happy to start. And we've been thinking a lot about this because it's the 20th anniversary year of the Women's Fund. And we recently talked to a couple of the original founders. There were 8 women who were the founders. And they said, it started in our living rooms. And we just, a bunch of women getting together and thinking kind of what could they do positively to impact the communities that they lived in. And that's got it going. And they got more friends involved. Their first fundraisers were luncheons at each other's homes. And they knew that less than 2% of all philanthropic dollars go to organizations that serve women and girls. It's unbelievable, actually.
That is unbelievable. And so, in other words, it was badly needed. And I love a grassroots founding story like that. And it's inspiring because it proves that when people get together and say, what can we do? There's an enormous power that starts there. And you've been going for 20 years, which is very impressive. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Wendy.
I was just going to say that listening to a couple of the founders who, were the genesis to start this engine, they got together, like Trish said, over luncheon and all pledged $1,000. And the first year that they awarded grants, they were able to award about $27,000. Am I right, Trish?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how it started, and it's grown. And this past year, we've allocated over $300,000 to 16 nonprofit organizations throughout Essex County. So it's really grown immeasurably. And when we were talking to the 2 founders, Paula Jerome and Paula Shorts, they were so delighted to know that, in 20 years, what they started has grown so much and impacted women and girls where we live locally.
Oh, I'm sure that must be totally gratifying for them to know that those lunches have grown exponentially and become a positive force for really impactful change. Well, you mentioned the statistic about just 2%, which is kind of jaw-dropping of the funds. And I know that you have an excellent website, and you post the question on your website, why women and girls? And you've started to answer that already. But on your website, there are a lot of statistics about poverty in Essex County that I found just jaw-dropping and eye-opening. So I was hoping that you could share with us the story that those statistics tell us about poverty among women and girls in Essex County.
I think there's even, since that report was written, there are some even deepening issues for women and girls, particularly women and girls of color in Essex County. I think it's been well documented that the pandemic disproportionately hit women and girls, and again, in communities that are underserved. So it's, we're trying to focus on what are the needs. And, mental health for adolescent girls is huge. We actually won an award from a grant from the Cummings Foundation, which is unusual, to grant out to 5 organizations who are focusing on adolescent girls' resiliency. So the statistics are grim. They are improving in some ways, certainly in education. But the single parent families headed by women continues to be steady, and we support a lot of organizations who work specifically with single moms.
Yeah. The need hasn't gone away. And the statistics tell the story of, in fact, in a lot of ways, it's gotten harder. And, you mentioned the Resilient Girls Project and the Cummings Foundation. That was how I learned about your organization, because a couple of months ago, there was an excellent article in the Daily News that talked about that 3-year, $210,000 grant that you got from the Cummings Foundation to support the Resilient Girls Project in Essex County. And I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit about some of that project is based on. There was data that was, well publicized from the Centers for Disease Control that came out about just the poor state of the kind of alarming state of mental health among teenage girls in particular. So I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit more about how the Women's Fund plans to utilize those funds that have become available to you to support the Resilient Girls Project.
We put out a request for applications, and those applications are due this Thursday, believe it or not. So we're anxious to hear what people have to say, and the organizations that have programs like this. So there's a resiliency model of 7 C's of resiliency. It includes competence, confidence, community, that all support all of us being resilient, being able to move over or past obstacles. And I think, maybe from your own background, one of the things that we really, that was an impetus for this, is that even the American Psychological Association is saying that we cannot meet the need with professionals, and the importance of in school and after school or out of school programming for teens, and for mental well-being, mental health, self-esteem, all of those concepts that go into that can't be overstated. And that helped us really think about, since most of the programs we fund are either in school type programs or out of school programs, that helped us think a little bit about what we might be able to do and how we might be able to also bring a learning community together. I think that's part of the ideal for this program, is that the cohort of 5 organizations will come together a couple times a year, learn from each other, learn from thinkers in this area, and that kind of cohort learning. So many nonprofits feel like they're, doing this by themselves, and that they're so busy, and the need is so overwhelming that they don't have a chance to really talk with colleagues as much as they'd like to. So we've gotten a lot of enthusiasm about that aspect as well.
I'll bet. Yeah, go ahead, Wendy. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say and add to what Trish said. we did a convening session. We did several actually a couple of years ago, and we got together probably 7 or so nonprofit organizations that we've granted to who have extremely tenured executive directors. And we posed the question that if you had unlimited funds, how would you use them?
Oh.
And the thread that wove through the entire conversation, many conversations, was the need for mentorship, just the exacerbation from COVID and the isolation that so many, everyone, all of us experienced, but they just find themselves working, and like Trish said, doing as much as they can within their 4 walls with the teams. So they're sort of repeating and living in a silo. They don't really have the funds. So we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if we could get together and we could, adapt a program that they could all benefit from, that we could roll out. And in addition to doing these cohorts, we want to publish the results and, have it live. It'll live on the website with the organizations, and everybody can benefit from it. But it really was so resounding to us. And the bullying that's going on, the isolation, the depression. And we just felt like this is something that we could really hang our hats on and that everybody could benefit from long term.
Absolutely. What I'm hearing from you both is the emphasis on community and network building and information sharing. That is, what's that expression? A force multiplier for the good. And it clearly is a need that you're hearing about firsthand from the organizations that you have contact with. That, of course, every nonprofit struggles. It's always, people are always having to look for funds, and that makes it hard to do the kind of network building then that the Women's Fund is positioned by your volunteer network and the funds you have available to assist with building those links among and between organizations so they can share, what's working. What are the needs? What are the opportunities? And I think it's wonderful that you're going to publish, because that means an even wider audience will be able to participate in what you've done and build upon those learnings. So it sounds very powerful. That lunch, that lunch that your founder started, isn't it exciting to see how something like that can really grow and build and reach out and form, not just a community, but kind of like let's go big here, a galaxy.
And the fact that we've remained all volunteer over 20 years, and so much work has been done, and the money stays locally. I think that's a really big thing for our donors, and we have a very active and generous and loyal donor base.
Wonderful.
Yes, and we're bringing younger people along and working on next generation. Men have become involved through sponsorships and through coming to luncheons, and now we'll have our celebration. So we're really, I think of it as a tree, branching out. And, like you said, the multiplier effect, the more that learn about what we do and who we are, and the fact that we're in 34 cities and towns affecting, 6 gateway cities, sure, get a major portion of the funding, but you never know. It's these grassroots, small organizations that start up. Trish, what's the expression you use about the spark?
Oh, it's a offshoot of the Dante Alighieri's "From a tiny spark bursts a mighty flame."
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So I like it to that. And I hope that more people can learn about us and can learn what we do and the impact that we have right in people's backyards that they may not even know about, organizations that they don't know, programs that they don't know about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think it makes a difference to people to feel like, first of all, you know where your dollars are going. You trust the people that you have given to, and then you can feel confident that it's working within your own community. That there's a connection, I think, that people can feel then with the betterment that we all like to feel part of, and yet often it's hard to see it tangibly. But we can see sparks and we can see when they become flames. So that's all for the good. Well, you've started responding to this question I had for you already, but just to see if you have more to add. I mean, you clearly care a lot about the impacts that your funding will have and about the needs of the organizations you work with. And I was curious to find out, because you have a funding deadline that is coming due, the day that this interview will be aired, on Thursday. And I'm curious to find out, after you've funded an organization, what kind of support do you provide for them, or how do you follow up on the projects and the organizations that you fund?
Well, we philosophically, we believe that they know best, that the organizations we fund know best about how to provide support to women and girls at risk. So we ask for an annual report from our funds to every grantee. And we try to keep in touch by simply convening in the last few years Zoom sessions for all of our grantees or whoever can participate. So that's how we keep in touch mostly. Yeah. And I think it is that sort of founding belief that we have that we can take your dollar and invest it in ways that you hadn't even thought of.
Yeah.
So if you want to invest in an organization that of women and girls, we know the big ones. What about the others? As Wendy mentioned, what about the others? So that's our approach to granting, is to stay in touch collegially, and put a ton of confidence into those who are actually delivering the service. And
then, Trish, if I'm understanding you kind of build a relationship that can become ongoing, which strikes me as a very empowering thing to do. The fund has supported many important and very effective organizations since it began, including a number of organizations in Greater Newburyport that I wanted to mention. The amazing Jeanne Geiger Crisis Center, the YWCA of Greater Newburyport, and a Jaques Hospital, Our Neighbor's Table. I wonder if you could each tell us about one organization or one project over the years that particularly stood out to you, either because of the positive impact you saw it having, or because it simply inspired you or touched your heart somehow.
I'll just speak about the Y in Greater Newburyport. A couple of years ago, we were recipients of the Constance M. Grasso Award, and it was something that I didn't even know existed, but they had reached out to us and asked us if we would like to be a beneficiary. If we said, absolutely, that would be such an honor. So we talked to John, and Trish and I went on a visit there. Oh. I had never been there. I love Newburyport. It's a great city, but I didn't know what the Y did. I wasn't on a grants allocation committee. So we had a tour. It was so impressive, and they were so gracious. It was almost like, the pride that they showed in themselves, in the building, in the programs. We met the staff. It was truly, I thought, transformational for me to know there was such a pride and ownership, and starting their shelters, their housing. It was just really impressive. And that's something that I love to tell stories when I go out and people want to know, what do you do? What's your, passion in life? And you can build a story around one visit and the impact that it has on their constituents. And then it just goes from there. But I think that for me, that day that we went there, it really was amazing to see what they have done, how they have grown, the buildings that they've added on to, and how they've taken it from such a small amount of people that they impact to now dozens and dozens and dozens. So that for me was really eye-opening. And I'm sure Trish can tell you more, but getting on site and seeing the people and who works for them and their love of who they serve. I could tell you stories, Citizens Inn, Girls Inc., Hawk, all of them. But Greater Newburyport, the Y was amazing.
Well, you told a good story. You made it come alive.
They told a good story.
Well, but you gave it to us, and I feel like your passion transmits the passion that you felt they had for the work that they do and the impact that they can have. Mm-hmm. And it's all good, because I think there are a few things more joyful in life than the gratification of feeling as though your attention and your effort have made a positive impact on people's lives. So thanks for that story. And I'm guessing, I'm guessing, Trish, you have one too.
Well, what's not to love about the Jeanne Geiger Crisis Center? Really, we are
nothing.
We are. Again, you think a little bit, as we talked earlier, about the collaboration between and among other nonprofits, and they stand for that as well. I mean, just this year, we funded a collaboration that they have with Girls Inc. In the Cape Ann. I think it's called Cape Ann Girls Inc. They have grown so much. They have moved from a crisis center to educating children in schools, talk about safe dating, that sort of thing. So we are so pleased that they're partners of ours. And in fact, just a couple of years ago, we give out an award every year called the Above and Beyond Award. And it's in honor of our founders. And it's $25,000 completely unrestricted. And they were recipients of that award, 3 years ago, I think, Wendy.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
Unrestricted money for a nonprofit is like gold.
Yeah.
So what a wonderful gift to give people. And yes, they're truly a visionary organization. As you said, they help people who are in crisis, but they're always looking ahead to prevention and to creating strength and wisdom. They're just very impressive, and I liked your story, and I'm glad to hear about that award. So, well, I'm curious now. What do you wish? I mean, Essex County is a big place, bigger, I think, than some of us realize, and with lots of different kinds of people living here. What do you wish people in the towns and neighborhoods of Essex County understood better about the needs and the potential of our neighbors and communities?
Well, for one, I go back to the 2% of philanthropic dollars. I don't think if you asked 10 people that they realize it is such a small amount that fund women and girls. And and then combine that with the fact that, single households are headed by women.
Yeah.
It is truly something, I think, that's a secret. And it's sad. The need is so real. I think Massachusetts, I keep reading about the housing. People want to sell their houses, but they can't find a place to live. Just Sunday in the Globe, this 73-year-old woman was couch surfing for years because she couldn't find housing after she sold her house. She couldn't afford it. The affordable senior housing has years and years, decades that people have been on lists. Yeah. NPR just a couple of weeks ago did a program. And I think that if more people knew of the need and the impact that many organizations like us are doing, but we focus on women and girls because it's disproportionate, the need. And I really wish that we could scream it from the mountain. And that the fact that our money stays locally, I think, is so rich. Our donors love it. It resounds with them. They trust us and our vetting process. So I think those are some things I just, it's just so sad. It's 2%. I want it to be more. I want it to be bigger. I want to help more women.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be a secret. It should be public. It should be known, because it's only when something enters people's awareness that they can do something about it. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, well done. And thank you. Well, is there anything that I haven't asked you both about that you'd really like to talk about before we end today?
We would like to make sure that your listeners know that we're having a celebratory event on October 13th, Friday the 13th, yikes, at 6:30 p.m. at Danversport in Danvers. And we would love, it's an opportunity to network. We will have our grantees will be there, so you have an opportunity to really talk with people that have been funded, who run these organizations. So we would really urge people to come, and they can go to our website and learn more. But that's our big effort, our big pitch for today.
Yeah, buy a ticket, come and learn and have fun.
Okay, well, that sounds great. Let's just repeat the date and the location.
It's Friday the 13th, October 13th.
Yeah, the date is memorable.
6:30, Danversport on Elliott Street in Danvers. It's a wonderful venue, and we welcome everyone.
Okay. And you do have a website, and let's talk about that, because my final question for you today was going to be, how can people learn more about and either donate or become involved in some other way with the Women's Fund of Essex County?
Sure. So you can go to the Women's Fund of Essex County.org. That's our website. We also have our grantees listed by year, so you can see who we have awarded money to. We have a page for volunteering, if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to become an advisory board member. We have an application process. So there's a lot of information on our website. What am I forgetting, Trish?
I think you've hit it, is that we have there's a lot of opportunity, and we are continually recruiting for volunteer supports, as we are all volunteer.
Well, and it sounds just so a really good way to learn more about and to meet some of the people involved with the Women's Fund would be to come on October 13th, Friday, 6:30, Danversport. So
yes.
Well, I want to thank you both. First and foremost, just for the amazing and impactful work that you do. You clearly have an extraordinary impact on our community in so many positive ways. And I'm glad to play a small part in making sure that people know you're there. And secondly, thank you so much, both of you, for taking time to visit the morning show today. We'll spread the word.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for having us.
It's absolutely been my pleasure. Well done. Bravo. The work you do sounds very gratifying and very important. And bravo to those founders who had lunch and created something enduring and transformative. So you're building on a great foundation. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Trish. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you very much, Mary.
That's it for today, everybody. Please join us again next Thursday at 9 for the morning show. Till then, be well.